Hi, my name is Christopher David Mitchell. I'm a coach, and today I want to share with you the three-step model process that I used to fully heal from the trauma and adversity in my life. Now, I feel like I have had some trauma in my life. I had a near-death experience at 27 years old and 31 years old. If you want to see that full video, it's on my page here called My Survival Story, Living with an Ileostomy Bag. And I want to share with you how I feel like I recovered from the trauma, everything that went on, the physical trauma, and of course the emotional trauma that I dealt with. So please do watch that video, but trust me when I say I have been through some traumatic experiences in my life, and I've sort of analyzed how I got through it. And it was really this three-step process that I used for myself in my recovery from adversity and trauma, and now to help others. So I want to share that with you today. So let's get into this. So after that near-death experience I had at 27 and also at 31, and recovering from those life-saving operations, like I say, it was the physical recovery was difficult, but the emotional, the psychological recovery was a lot more difficult actually. And over the years, whether it been through books, events, or online events, or some in-person coaching, I went to 3 different kinds of people to try and seek real results for my healing. And those 3 people were therapists, coaches, and sort of spiritual teachers, I'd say. Now, like I say, some of this was in the form of books. I read so many books. But basically, I was going down those 3 avenues. And I realized that obviously therapists were mainly dealing with everything in the past. They were mainly digging up and dealing with everything that went on with my adversity, my trauma in the past. So we were mostly always focused on what had happened to me. And we were trying to sort of recontextualize that as a way of healing. Now, spiritual teachers were very focused on being present. What was happening in the present? There was a lot of meditation. There was a lot of mindfulness. There was a lot of acceptance of how and who we are in this very moment today. And then the coaches were very future orientated. So they were sort of saying, you can't change your past, and let's just look to the future, and what's your goals and what's your future ambitions, and where do you want to be in 1 year's time? Now, all 3 of these therapists, spiritual teachers, and coaches had value, and they were all working in 3 separate areas of the past, the present, and the future. And I find that this is like a nice holistic sort of Venn diagram, as it were, for complete healing from your trauma. Because I find that just one section of these, like just focusing all the time in your past, leads to some growth, but not complete growth and healing. And just focusing on where you are today can lead to a lot of great work, but it's not complete. And just focusing on where you're going in the future can be amazing, great work, but again, incomplete. And so it was really all 3 that gave me the healing. That's the answer. The short answer was the 3-step process is going through these 3 areas. Going to your past first in this order, then assessing where you are today in your present moment with your present self, and then looking to your future. But I found that all 3 have to be done for this complete healing from very traumatic experiences of great adversity in your life. And like I say, I think people just focus on one aspect, get some results, but they don't feel like they're fully healed. So I just want to do a quick overview of how I healed through work I did in the past, like a therapist, in the present, like a spiritual teacher, and in the future, like a coach, and how it helped me, and how I now use this model to sort of help my clients as I'm coaching them too. And just to say, it has to be done in this order, because a lot of coaches that I've been to who are always focused on future goals and goal setting, they're not taking into account this whole model, which really means they're not taking into account the whole person of where they are in today or what's happened to them in the past. Now, I'm not discounting any of that. Like I say, I think each 3 of these areas have equal value. But point is, you don't want to fast track this process and just look to the future. Because if you haven't fully dealt with your past, or you don't know who you are in your present, then to just go to the future would be a mistake. You would find that you get into all sorts of problems of sort of procrastinating, self-sabotaging, setting these goals, not achieving them, then being hard on yourself. Because basically trying to go to the future when you've got still past issues that aren't resolved is like trying to go forward in the car whilst you've got the handbrake on. It's like trying to run forward in your life whilst you're carrying huge weights still. So this is why if you feel like you've tried to do future goals and you either quit quickly, or you can't see them through, or you feel like you've got loads of doubts of failures. I mean, all that is normal, but if we've been through more trauma and adversity in our life that hasn't been dealt with, then those are like wounds in us. They're emotional wounds, but they really are wounds that will just bleed out whilst you're still trying to run forward. You're still bleeding out. We need to first heal the past to fully then actually be able to go forward in the future. And I noticed that I was like setting myself these goals and I was like, I can't seem to go forward. But if you haven't healed the past, it's like an energy leak. And it's like if we use the car analogy again, it's either that the handbrake's on, but actually I probably prefer the analogy now that I'm just making up in real time, that it's almost like if you haven't healed the past, you've still got emotional wounds there, then it's like the engine of the car has got holes in it and it's leaking out, fuel as you're trying to desperately go forward. So it's important to do it in this order. So let's start with the past. So obviously with looking to the past, a lot of the work that the therapists were doing with me and that I was thinking about, it's all about reframing the past. The past is something that obviously we can't change. We can't change the events of the past, but we can change the meaning we give to it. So working on your past will be working on acceptance of your past, working on finding a different meaning about your past, work on sort of the story you are telling yourself about your past, all the emotions to work on that are associated with your past. It's time to actually face those head on and really dig deep of all the emotions that you feel about what went on with you, with your life, with your adversity, with your trauma. It's easy to try and escape those emotions because it's emotionally difficult to face them head on. But it actually needs a lot of work of really saying, right, how do I feel about what happened to me? How do I really feel about that? Then stuff will come up. Maybe you feel shame, maybe you feel guilt, maybe you feel saddened. It's then dealing with that head on and turning it on its head to try and give the meaning something positive, to try and accept what has happened to you, which a lot of people have never taken the time to do. This takes a lot of time, by the way. It's not a quick fix. The quick fix would just be to do something like, drink some alcohol to try and forget about the past and shut those emotions off. But actually you need to deal with exactly what has happened to you head on and deal with the story you're telling yourself about your past, the emotions, the energy, the meaning you are giving to it. Like I say, we can't change what happened, but we can change the meaning about what happened. And that's the power of looking into the past. And you'll know when you're through that process, because if it's still a raw emotional wound, then when you think about the past, it will hurt, or you'll be triggered, or you'll get emotional. But once you've really leaned into it, which will be challenging at first, then when you think about the past, you know that you've done the work well when it doesn't sting anymore like it used to. You feel like you've come to a place of acceptance with it. And that takes a lot of time with asking the right questions, having the right person guide you through that, I think. And it's that work that does need to be done. So a lot of the past will be to do with work such as that: acceptance, loving yourself, reframing the meaning, having perspective on things, and just really actually hitting what happened head on, hitting all the emotions that come up head on. And that's challenging. That's what people don't want to do. They want to run away from their emotions. But to fully heal, you can't run away from your emotions. You've got to lean into them head on. You've got to let it out. You've got to feel that emotion. There might even be like an energy release when you actually do it. Maybe you cry, maybe you shake and shiver. There's got to be something where you will feel a shift when you release all the negative connotations you've got of the past and you turn it into love, acceptance, gratitude, and positivity. It takes time, but trust me, it can be done. So after you've worked on that past, after you've either seen a therapist or within yourself, or you know that you've healed from that, you know it doesn't sting like it used to, then it's time to go to your present. It's time to get the spiritual teacher in you going, and that is working out who you are today in context of your past. And all these will go together. So when you're working on yourself in your present moment, it's still in context of what had happened, but now you're sort of saying, instead of like directly looking at the past, you're sort of saying, right, now that the past has happened, how is it affecting who I am today? You know, and it's really knowing yourself with who you really are, knowing your values, knowing what you want out of life, knowing sort of the perspective that you can see of what the past has brought you to who you are today, seeing how the past has changed you for the person you are today. It's checking in with who you are in this very moment in the context of what happened in the past. A lot of spiritual teachers will often teach meditation because meditation is an exercise that's completely in the present moment. So that's getting your awareness up, getting your mindfulness up, checking in with exactly who you are. And most happiness is found in the present moment, so it's a beautiful practice. And it's why meditation is linked to people being happier, because a lot of constantly thinking about the past or constantly thinking about the future can be lots of fears and worries. But being able to be present, being able to check in with who you really are is so important. And so elements of gratitude for who you are today, elements of mindfulness, like we say, of meditation, of self-love with who you are in this very moment, with what you have today, seeing what you can control in your life today. You know, what things are you thinking about presently that you can actually do in your life? Not things that aren't out of your control, but things that you can control. So this whole present thing is a very spiritual thing of just really knowing yourself. That's what it boils down to in my eyes. And I find that when I do a lot of this work with clients, really most people have no idea who they really are, what their values are, what they really want in life. Like, they think they do, but they don't really know. It's asking a lot of the right questions. So you know yourself today in the context of what has happened. What has happened has made you who you are today, and who is that person? And when you know your truest desires, your truest passions, your truest values, what makes you happy, you can then start to have this as a nice basis to work towards your future. Because you can't just go straight to the future without knowing yourself with who you are today. Otherwise, all these goals that you might make up for where you're going in the future, you know, half of them might be right, half of them might not, because you haven't even checked in, if you skip the present moment work, with who you really are. Then once you know that, once you know your values, what makes you happy, you know, what you really want out of life, and sometimes this is based on your past, then we can start to look at the future in a new way, but knowing that all the future goals that you're going to make are actually going to be worth it. No guessing games that you've achieved some goals and then you're like, didn't make me that happy. Those people made goals without checking in with themselves first. And don't be fooled by thinking you know yourself. Like I say, I've been coaching for years now. I mean, 98% of people do not know who they really are. They think they know who they are, but they don't know who they really are, how they really work as a human, what really drives them, what really motivates them, what will really make them happy. It's a guessing game for most people that's blinded by society and culture and their friends and everything. So to check in with your true, authentic self, with who you are today, is super important. And lastly, we can go to the future. We can be a coach, quote unquote a coach, although I am technically called a coach, but I don't just work on future work, because I believe in this holistic approach here, the complete approach to helping someone. But that being said, once you've healed the wounds from the past, once you have checked in with knowing yourself and who you are in the present moment, then you can make those future goals. You can also take the context of the trauma and the adversity with you. The trauma and the adversity that you've healed from the past, you can now look to the future and think, how could I use that for the greater good? How could I use my trauma and adversity to help others for the greater good? And again, if you skip healing the past, you're not going to be able to fully help others in the future if you've not done the healing process yourself. But you can look to the future and think, how can I contribute to others in the future in context of the adversity I've gone through in the past? What goals could I set myself for the future, knowing how much I know about myself? And how could I even maybe share my story, if that's appropriate, which is something I did, to help others, to contribute? How can I maybe give back in some way? I mean, I've done some charity concerts that again was in context raising funds for the hospital that saved my life. So as you look to the future, particularly if we're talking about this idea of healing and trauma, obviously there's the normal future goals you can do, but in the context of adversity and trauma, I think that future thing of contribution and helping others through your experience, your stories and your wisdom, having gone through the process, is that last step of complete healing for you still as a person, because it creates another level of meaning to the whole adversity and trauma that you've suffered in the past, when you can not only heal yourself, know your true self, but share that in whatever way you feel comfortable and contribute and help others. I know when I shared my story, it makes me emotional to think about it. There was that last hit of meaning that it was all meant to be. It was all worthwhile. That because I shared the story and millions of people saw it, it's almost like it was the icing on the cake of, yeah, do you know what? Maybe I went through this whole thing for a big purpose, a big reason. Whew. But like I say, you can't get to that point if you've not done some of the healing yourself. There's no way that you should be sharing your story to contribute and help others when you're still dealing with so many demons yourself. It's a bad move to make. So that's my thoughts on that. But when you're ready, and you'll feel like you're ready, it can be nice to set your future goals as the contribution and meaning behind why your adversity even happened in the first place. So I hope this video helped today. It's looking back at it and analyzing, how did I fully heal from such a traumatic, life-threatening event? And it was all three of these in order. And I'm still continuing with the future one. I'm still continuing with all of them a tiny bit. I'm always checking in with myself in the present. The past, I don't really need to do now. I feel like once the past's healed, you don't need to keep digging into the past. The present, always doing that mindfulness work, always doing that meditation work, always checking in with myself every year, every few months, and that future work always doing. But it's these three in context of each other that I feel is the holistic healing from your trauma adversity. So there's some thoughts there. And of course, having gone through and experienced it myself, I am now, coaching people on this, going through this process with them, finding out which one they need to work on the most, where the gaps are. So if you would like me to go through that process, if there's any adversity in your life that you've been going through, then I'm very, very happy. And I've been seeing great results with clients And without sounding funny, the results are only because I've done it myself. You know what I mean? I personally don't think I could coach this stuff if I haven't done it myself. It's experiential learning. And I think that's why I'm seeing good results for clients. So reach out to me via my website, christopherdavidmitchell.com, if you want me to help you through this process. But I hope this video helped. Give it a like if it was helpful, or share it out to a friend. If you feel like they haven't fully healed from something that happened to them, from a moment of trauma or adversity in their lives, and maybe if they see this, they'll be like, okay, I see the missing pieces here. That'd be great. And stick with me till next time for more coaching, more YouTube videos, and subscribe, because we're going to be going on a journey together. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.